The royal family's biggest nightmare wasn't the press, wasn't the scandals, wasn't even the interviews. It was the fear that Prince Harry was no longer making his own decisions. And that fear, according to explosive claims, started the moment Meghan Markle entered the palace walls and never left. Because behind the polite smiles, the carefully staged balcony waves, and the perfectly pressed coats, something was going very wrong, very fast. And the people inside the palace could see it happening in real time, but felt powerless to stop it. And when a senior royal allegedly whispered to a friend that Meghan had brainwashed Harry, that wasn't gossip anymore, that was panic dressed up as private conversation. The kind of sentence that only gets spoken when people believe they are watching someone slip away right in front of them.
The Queen Camilla said that Harry had been brainwashed by Meghan, and that in fact members of the royal family felt that Meghan kind of changed Harry's personality, and he went from a fun-loving guy that we all loved, that we all liked, to this rather furrow-browed guy who seemed to hate everybody and everything.
If that claim was even partially true, then it would explain why people kept saying Harry wasn't the same anymore. Not the laughing prince, not the reckless charmer, not the fun-loving spare who once looked like the most human royal in the palace. Suddenly, he looked tense, defensive, distant, like a man who had chosen a side and knew there was no going back. And then came the One Young World Summit, the moment that was supposed to be about charity, leadership, helping the next generation, a noble stage with a noble cause, but according to the book, something else happened instead. Something that made people in the room look at each other in confusion. Because the speech that was supposed to be about global change reportedly turned into something else entirely. A personal story, a personal brand narrative, a speech where the word I reportedly echoed again and again and again nearly 50 times, like a campaign speech disguised as charity work. And that's when people started asking a very uncomfortable question: was this about helping the world, or was the world being used to help build something else entirely?
Proof that I was there. Proof that I belonged. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure that I belonged. I was so nervous. I doubted myself, and I wondered if I was good enough to even be there, if what I was doing in the world, albeit important and meaningful as far as I saw it, was it deserving?
But if there was one moment insiders say changed everything, it was the tea meeting in 2018. A quiet room, teacups, royal politeness, the kind of meeting where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. And yet, according to the claims, that was the day Meghan allegedly snapped at Prince William and the room went cold. The future king sitting there, Harry sitting there, Meghan angry, William stunned, and Harry silent, sipping tea while his wife and his brother clashed in front of him, a moment so awkward, so tense, that people who heard about it later said that was the day the brothers truly began drifting apart. Because William had already warned Harry the relationship was moving too fast, already worried, already suspicious, and after that meeting, insiders say William didn't just distrust Meghan, he started distancing himself from Harry too. One moment, one argument, and suddenly the royal Fab Four was finished before it even really began. And then comes the part that makes this story feel less like romance and more like strategy. Because according to the narrative in the book, Meghan never saw royal life as the final destination. She saw it as a stepping stone. Not London, but global influence. Not supporting the crown, but building a personal empire in media, fashion, and global power circles. And the only way to do that, according to this version of events, was to leave the royal system, but take the royal title, the royal fame, and the royal connection along for the ride. Critics began saying the whole thing started to look less like royal duty and more like a Hollywood PR campaign that never ended. And in the middle of all this was Harry, stuck between the family he was born into and the life he chose, a man insiders described as confused, defensive, and increasingly isolated, especially as fears grew that when William becomes king one day, Harry could lose everything, even his title.
Harry apparently, reportedly, according to the book, is worried he'll be banished from royal circles when William becomes king. Well, that is almost certainly true. He'll probably lose his HRH title and his prince title.
Because if that ever happened, it wouldn't just be a royal decision, it would be a royal exile in everything but name. And suddenly the fairy tale starts to look different, darker, more complicated, because now this isn't just a love story, it's a power story, a family war, a media battle, and possibly the most modern royal crisis we've ever seen. And the question that keeps coming back again and again like a whisper in palace corridors is this: did Meghan save Harry from the royal machine, or did she pull pull him into a completely different one. And just when the palace thought the drama couldn't get more strategic, more calculated, more like a silent chess game played through headlines instead of moves, another claim dropped that made insiders raise their eyebrows. Because according to the book, Meghan's team allegedly watched the royal calendar very closely, almost like media tacticians tracking a rival company. And when Princess Catherine was scheduled to appear at the Royal Variety Performance, a huge royal media night, suddenly Meghan's Netflix trailer dropped at the exact same time. Same news cycle, same headlines, same cameras. Coincidence? Maybe. Strategy? That's what critics started whispering, that this wasn't random anymore, this was timing. Media timing, attention timing, the kind of timing you use when you don't just want publicity, you want to redirect the spotlight. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the money situation reportedly started becoming uncomfortable because the Netflix deals don't last forever, the Spotify deals don't last forever, and royal-level security in California reportedly costs millions every single year. Millions going out, less money coming in, and suddenly the fairy tale California freedom started to look very, very expensive. Their foundation income reportedly dropped sharply, donations weren't covering costs, and critics began saying something that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier, that the Sussex brand might be running out of money while still trying to maintain a billionaire celebrity lifestyle. And that's when the lifestyle brand launched. The famous raspberry fruit spread, not jam, fruit spread, because technically it reportedly didn't qualify as jam. And people couldn't believe what they were seeing. A royal duchess selling fruit spread for luxury prices, marketed like a palace product but sounding like something from a Pinterest kitchen experiment. And suddenly the question became brutal. Was this a global power move or a rebrand that wasn't going according to plan? Then came one of the most awkward stories in the entire book, Paris Fashion Week. According to the claims, Meghan allegedly contacted a major designer herself, suggesting she could make a surprise appearance if her expenses were covered. Expenses that reportedly reached around $250,000. But then the designer publicly said something that turned the whole story into global embarrassment, that she wasn't invited, she invited herself. And overnight, the glamorous Paris story started sounding less like a celebrity appearance and more like someone asking, "Can I come to your party if you pay for everything?" And in high society, that kind of story spreads very fast and sticks even faster. And then there's the Invictus Games, Harry's pride, Harry's legacy, the project that once made the entire world respect him again. But critics began calling it something else, the Meghan Games, because headlines were starting to focus less on veterans and more on Meghan's outfits, Meghan's arrivals, Meghan's camera moments. And people started asking a very uncomfortable question that nobody in PR once asked. Can anyone even name the winning team from the last games? Or do people only remember what Meghan wore? The image rebrand attempts kept coming. Magazine covers, interviews, relaunches, lifestyle shows. But then came the detail that made insiders quietly laugh. A journalist arrived for an interview at Meghan's home, and a butler reportedly announced, "Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex." The problem? The room was empty. No audience, no guests, just an announcement of a royal title to nobody. And that moment, small and strange, became symbolic to critics. The title still being announced, even when the royal life itself was long gone. And behind the glamour, behind the California mansion, behind the public speeches, there were also small human moments that cameras caught. Moments where Harry and Meghan looked tense, tired, even pushing each other's hands away during an argument in public. Small moment. But when you are the most photographed couple in the world, small moments become global headlines. Even Harry's meetings with his father reportedly felt less like family reunions and more like business appointments. When Harry finally met King Charles after years of distance, people expected tears, reconciliation, some emotional father-son moment. Instead, the meeting reportedly lasted just 54 minutes. No photos, no warm statements, just a formal meeting, and then he left. And insiders said it felt less like a reunion and more like a scheduled appointment between two very important people who happened to be related. By this point, the story doesn't even feel like a family drama anymore. It feels like a slow-motion royal Cold War. Titles, money, media, image, power, relevance, everything mixed together in a battle where nobody wants to lose and nobody wants to apologize. And now, according to the claims, there are even talks about a possible return to the UK through the Invictus Games again, possibly trying to reconnect, possibly trying to rebuild bridges, possibly trying to regain royal relevance in the very country they once dramatically left. And that's why this story still feels unfinished, because this isn't a scandal with a clear ending. This is a power struggle that keeps evolving, a family that still isn't reconciled, a couple still trying to control their image, a monarchy trying to protect its future. And somewhere in the middle middle of all this is the question nobody can answer yet. Is this a love story that went to war with the palace, or is this a palace that went to war with one couple? And the real truth might be something far more complicated than either side wants the world to know.